Movies in short here. Today, we'll discuss a 2005 mystery sci-fi thriller called War of the Worlds. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. A young dock worker named Ray is seen leaving his workplace. We see his boss chase after him and try to talk him into taking an extra work shift. Ray, however, refuses and continues to walk away. After parking in front of his house, Ray sees his ex-wife, Mary, and her new husband, who have been waiting for him for more than 30 minutes to pick up his children. Moments later, his son, Robbie, comes out of the car. Ray opens his arms, waiting for a hug. However, Robbie ignores him and continues to walk towards the house. Ray's daughter, Rachel, comes out of the car and gives Ray a hug. Mary enters the house with Ray and tells him he needs to buy food and make sure Robbie does his homework. As Mary starts to leave, she tells Ray she will be staying in Boston with her parents and if anything comes up he should call her cell phone. Ray says he can handle it. He compliments her outfit. She leaves saying to take care of their kids. A TV news station starts reporting on a freakish lightning storm in Ukraine, which left the country in total blackout. As Robbie changes through the channels, there's more reports of the lightning phenomenon across the globe. He is interrupted as Ray comes in and throws a pitcher's glove and asks him to play some baseball with him in the yard. They share what seems to be a father and son moment, but as they continue to play things get more heated. After Ray tells Robbie to do his report, because he is not being sent to school to flunk out, to which Robbie replies that Ray is not the one paying for it, so it's not his concern. Ray decides to take a nap and leaves the kids unattended. Sometime later, we see Rachel flipping through different channels on the television, many of which are still reporting the lightning storms. Ray wakes up and joins Rachel in the living room. After talking about a splinter in her hand and the disgusting food she ordered, Ray asks Rachel where Robbie is. Rachel tells Ray that Robbie left the house and took Ray's car. Ray rushes outside to check the garage, to find his car is gone. He goes across the street and sees a crowd of people taking pictures. Unaware of what is happening, he turns around and spots a giant black cloud. He thinks the view of the cloud will be better from the backyard, and rushes there. The cloud, which looks abnormal, seems to be getting closer and closer. Neighbors rush out to take a look as well. Ray notices that something is not right. The wind seems to be blowing towards the storm, and not away from it as one would expect. Ray calls for Rachel to come and take a look. Suddenly, the wind disappears, a momentary calm before the storm. Everything becomes quiet and ominous. The silence is broken as lightning begins to strike the ground dangerously close to Ray's yard. Rachel says she wants to go back inside. Ray, however, assures her that everything is okay. More bolts hit the ground nearby. Rachel says she doesn't want to go back in by herself, but before Ray can respond, lightning begins to strike the ground repeatedly, making them both run back in panic. Ray tries to make light of the situation and jokingly says it's like the 4th of July, but Rachel fails to find humor in the situation. Ray's laughter soon turns to fear as the lightning draws closer. Rachel says it hit right behind the house. To which Ray says it won't hit there again, explaining that lightning doesn't strike twice in the same place, but just as he says that, it strikes the exact same spot multiple times. Ray and Rachel hide under the table and watch in terror as lightning continues to strike the ground. Ray wonders why he cannot hear any thunder. A few moments later the lightning abruptly comes to a halt. Every clock has stopped, the power is out and Ray's cell phone is dead. Even the time on his watch seems to have frozen. Ray goes outside and finds everyone wondering what just happened. All vehicles seem to have stopped functioning as well. Ray finds Robbie nearby. Robbie explains that he saw lightning strike the same spot 26 times in a row. After confirming that Robbie is okay, Ray instructs him to go in the house and look after his sister. Ray passes by an auto repair shop where the owner, Manny, tells him that the starter is burned out on a minivan he is working on. Ray asks if the lightning hit it. Manny replies that it wasn't even close to it. Ray tells Manny to replace the solenoid. Ray walks downtown to the site where the lightning struck. A crowd is gathered around a large hole in the street. Everyone is inspecting the hole which the lightning struck multiple times, even though the police are telling everyone to back off. Ray touches a piece of the cracked pavement and finds that it's unusually cold. The earth begins to shake. We hear a loud rumbling noise as the ground starts to crack. The cracks spread through the ground at a rapid speed until they reach a building and demolish it. The earthquake continues and the cracks begin to spread more rapidly. Ray tries his best to dodge the destruction, still confused as to what is happening. Nearby buildings start crumbling. Just when everyone thinks the earthquake has stopped, the ground under the hole surges upward, creating an explosion and covering the whole area in smoke. Ray runs to take cover behind a car door. Suddenly a car is launched into the air and it crashes to the ground a few meters away from Ray. Robotic legs emerge from the smoke. and smash right into the car Ray was taking cover behind. A huge machine on 3 stilted legs bursts out of the hole and observes the crowds, prompting everyone to start running in fear. The machine stands as tall as a skyscraper. The alien tripod doesn't appear to be hostile, so people stop to observe it and even begin taking photographs of it. The tripod lets out a loud blast like a foghorn, and as the crowd scatters, it begins to incinerate dozens of people with blasts of heat beams, instantly turning them to ash. Ray runs, escaping through a department store. As he does, the ash from an unfortunate victim covers him. Ray hides behind a building and watches the monstrous machine walk by. He is reminded of Robbie and Rachel when a man runs by carrying his own child. Ray enters his house without saying a word. His children ask him what happened, and what that stuff all over him is. Ray is in total shock. Ray washes the ash from his face and hair and announces to his kids that they are leaving the house in 60 seconds. Robbie is confused and asks why. Ray just tells him to get the food from the refrigerator in the cupboard. Ray rushes to his room and removes a case from under the bed, opens it and takes the revolver from it. Robbie asks what is happening, but Ray says he can't tell him now and that they only have about another minute before they have to leave. They go to Manny's garage and climb into the minivan the mechanic had been working on. Manny comes out and tells him that he was right about the solenoid. Ray ignores him and continues to get into the car. Manny tells him to open the door. Ray opens the door and tells him to get in. Manny keeps arguing with Ray that the car is not his and that the owner will come looking for it. As the two argue, the machine starts getting closer. They close the door forcefully and leave Manny behind. After looking in the rearview mirror, we see Manny get incinerated by the tripod. As Ray drives away, everything in the background gets demolished. They make it to the highway only to see a traffic jam of stopped cars. Ray explains what he saw to Robbie. He says that the machine is most likely of alien origin. Ray tells Robbie that the machine was buried, but what operates it most likely came down with the lightning storm. The group arrives at Mary Ann's house, but they soon find that the house is completely empty. Ray tells the kids that Mary is most likely with her parents in Boston. They decide to stay the night in the basement and wait for Mary's arrival in the morning. After a few hours of restless sleep, Ray wakes up and hears a commotion outside, which becomes a deafening roar. The house starts shaking violently, causing everything to start falling from the shelves. Flashes of light and screeching noises emanate from just outside the house. Ray asks Robbie where they can hide and the three rush to the basement utility room. Ray goes back for his gun and barely makes it back in time before flames engulf him. When Ray wakes up several hours later, he walks upstairs to find most of the house demolished. Ray discovers that the commotion from the previous night was caused by a plane that had crashed in the neighborhood. While Ray walks by, he sees a man in the wreckage of the plane, cleaning out the food service carts. He asks if the man was a passenger, but he does not respond. A woman approaches Ray and tells him that the man is deaf. She says a shell went off right beside him and that his camera on his shoulder saved his life. The woman explains that they are journalists who were reporting on a National Guard unit, the 83rd Mechanized. They attempted to attack one of the machines around midnight, but a shield protected it from any damage. The woman explains that New York, DC, Los Angeles, Chicago and even London have fallen to the machines. She shows Ray a video of the tripods marching in groups. Ray is in complete shock at what he is seeing. She tells Ray to watch the lightning closely, as the video shows capsules slide down into the ground together with the lightning. Just as she was explaining, another machine interrupts them, as it blares in the near distance. Ray gathers his family, and they set out again in the minivan towards Boston to meet up with Mary. They drive for a while and pull over when Rachel needs to relieve herself. Ray warns them that they need to watch out for people who might want their car. Robbie says there's nobody around. An army convoy passes by. Robbie sprints towards the convoy. Robbie asks them to stop and to let him in. The military ignores him and continues forward. Ray asks Robbie if he wants to go in the same direction that the military are traveling. Ray tells him there's nothing living in that direction. Robbie asks why Ray suddenly cares about what he does, when he never did before. After Ray tells Robbie he is in charge and asks him what they should do next, he tells Ray that they should unite with any remaining survivors and get back at the aliens. Ray tells him to try a plan that doesn't involve his 10-year-old sister joining the army. A frantic Rachel screams at Robbie, asking him what he is trying to do. She asks Robbie who will take care of her if he goes. After which, Robbie hugs his little sister and walks back towards the car. Ray asks Robbie to drive for a while so he can get some rest. Robbie tells him he doesn't have a license, and Ray asks when that has ever stopped him. Robbie wakes up Ray, asking him to take over the wheel. They come to a small town where evacuated people have gathered. The crowd quickly becomes hostile toward Ray's family and wants their vehicle. Ray tells everyone to put on their seatbelts. People start jumping on the car and throwing rocks at the window. Ray tells everyone to hold on and accelerates, but sees a woman with her infant in front of him. He tries to avoid them but ends up crashing into an electrical pole. Crowds of people swarm the car and try to pry open the doors. Men start breaking the car windows with tools and try to get into the car by any means possible. Ray and Robbie are forcefully pulled from the car and beaten by the mob. Rachel calls out for Ray, as a man starts to climb into the back seat. A fight breaks out, with Ray punching and pushing everyone attempting to get into the car. Ray fires 2 shots in the air, causing the mob to retreat. Another man aims a gun at Ray, telling him to put down his, and that he is taking the car. Ray tells him that his daughter is in the car. Ray is permitted to get Rachel out and walk away. The family continues to walk with the crowds of evacuees. Rachel notices the trees in the distance moving. Ray, followed by Robbie, turn around and spot a tripod on the hills behind them. The crowd of people start panicking and rush towards the ferry boat. Suddenly, more tripods appear and start moving towards the scared crowd. The captain notices a bright light underneath the water. Another tripod rises from the river and attacks, turning the ferry over and spilling cars and people into the water. Ray and the kids surface and swim for shore, as tentacles from the tripod grab people out of the water. Ray and the kids make it to the opposite shore. They hear screams nearby. When they look on their right, they notice more tripods coming their way. Clothes from all the incinerated people rain down from the sky. The group joins other survivors in a field. Robbie notices the military convoy again. Ray and Rachel tell him they need to stay together, but Robbie runs towards the military, completely ignoring them. Jets zip by overhead, and Robbie somehow becomes entranced by the battle, which is unseen and taking place over a hill. Robbie approaches the battle while Ray and Rachel yell for him to come back. Robbie ignores them and is stopped at the top of the hill by army personnel. Ray tells Rachel not to move and he goes running after Robbie. Ray catches up with Robbie and is trying to talk some sense into him, as the military continues to fight the tripods nearby. Ray keeps trying to talk Robbie out of it, but Robbie has made up his mind and begs him to let him go. A couple spot Rachel by the tree that Ray left her at. The woman says Rachel can't stay there. Ray spots the couple by Rachel and needs to make a tough decision. Robbie tells Ray he needs to let him go. Ray is dumbfounded at his son's decision. Robbie insists that he needs to see the battle and Ray reluctantly lets him go, accepting that he can't stop his son's obsession and that he needs to protect his daughter. The two exchange glances without saying a word. Ray finally turns around to look for Rachel as Robbie sprints towards the mayhem. The army continues to push forward and fire back at the enemy. Ray catches up with the couple and Rachel and tells them to stop, as he declares himself as her father. More explosions happen as a tripod emerges from the hill across Ray. Ray and Rachel are called by a man near a house. The stranger offers them sanctuary in his basement. After the group gets comfortable, Ray tells Rachel she should get some sleep and that Robbie will meet them in Boston. Rachel asks Ray to sing her some lullaby songs, but Ray says he doesn't know any. He starts feeling remorseful that he wasn't close with his children. Ray decides to sing a song he knows to her anyway. The stranger interrupts Ray with a glass clinking, suggesting a drink. Ray joins the stranger and tells him about Robbie. The stranger tells Ray he lost everyone and introduces himself as Harlan. Harlan says he has enough water and food to last them weeks. He tells Ray they are both welcome to stay. Ray excuses himself and says he needs to get some sleep. Just as Ray was going to rest, he hears a series of loud noises coming from upstairs that prompt the group to hide. Ray tells Harlan he has a daughter and asks Harlan why he brought them here. Harlan tells Ray he did so they can fight the aliens together. Ray then hears the machinery sounds from outside suddenly stop. An alien probe invades the basement, prompting everyone to hide. Harlan picks up an axe that was hanging on the wall. Ray begs him silently to not do it, which changes Harlan's mind about attacking the machine. The machine retreats to the surface without spotting anyone. But as the group think they are safe, they hear something else descend to the basement. The creatures operating the tripod seem to have come down to investigate the basement. As they are observing the creature's behavior, they are startled when one approaches their location. The alien, however, doesn't notice them. Harlan loads his shotgun and aims at the extraterrestrials, but Ray intervenes and tries to take his shotgun away. The two struggle for control over the shotgun. As the creatures continue exploring the basement nearby, Harlan overpowers Ray and pushes him to the ground. He manages to take the shotgun away from Ray, but at the same time, a loud blaring noise from the tripod makes the aliens leave the basement. Harlan confronts Ray and tells him he doesn't think they are on the same page. As the loud noises continue outside, some strange red roots begin to grow rapidly and spread throughout the basement. Ray moves his arm near the window, only to find it completely covered in red, bloody liquid. He suddenly hears Harlan yell out Ray's name repeatedly. Ray rushes towards Harlan to tell him to keep his voice down. Harlan looks back at Ray in total shock. Ray looks through the window and notices a man being captured by the tripod. The machine pumps blood out from the man, as it continues to dissect him. Ray is shocked at the sight happening before him. The aliens are covering the landscape with a mysterious and rapidly growing red vine, and they are using blood harvested from humans they've captured to fertilize it. At this revelation, Harlan becomes extremely agitated, digging frantically in his basement and muttering, "Not my blood." Repeatedly, Ray rushes to Harlan telling him to stop. Harlan turns around and tells Ray the creatures drink their blood. Ray continues to beg Harlan to stop as the creatures will hear them. Ray asks Harlan if he understands what he is going to have to do. He tells him he can't let his daughter die because of him. Ray yells at Harlan to stop, but Harlan hits him with the shovel, saying they are the resistance. Ray notices Harlan is beyond comprehension. Ray blindfolds Rachel and tells her that whatever she hears she shouldn't take off the blindfold. He then tells her to sing him the lullaby song he didn't know earlier. Ray enters the room with Harlan and closes the door behind him. Grunting and bludgeoning noises can be heard from inside the room. The door finally opens and only one man comes out. Ray sits by the stairs all bloody and beat up, but alive. Later the two sleep on the couch, but some noise wakes up Rachel and she sits up. She then sees the alien probe looking right at her. She screams frantically. Ray punches the probe. Using Harlan's axe, Ray repeatedly strikes the machine down. Ray continues to hack away at it, until it is completely disabled. Rachel sprints upstairs as the probe retreats from the basement. Ray opens the front door, looking for Rachel, only to find a bloodbath in front of him. As Ray starts yelling Rachel's name louder, a tripod comes down right near him. The tripod spots Ray and starts chasing after him. Ray hides in a truck, but the machine grabs the whole vehicle. As Ray is trapped in the upside-down vehicle, he hears Rachel scream. The tripod diverts its attention towards Rachel instead. As the tripod is about to take Rachel, Ray sprints towards her, but is not able to get to her in time. The tripod walks away with its prize and Ray keeps sprinting after it. He sees a military vehicle and enters it. He finds a grenade belt and takes it. He throws the grenade at the tripod, but it is blocked by the defensive shield of the machine. Ray gets the machine's attention and it turns around. It uses a tentacle to lift him into an underslung cage filled with other people. Ray finds Rachel, who's in deep shock. Before he can reunite with her, the tripod makes a sudden loud noise. A large valve opens overhead and sucks up one of the captives. The loud noise from the tripod starts again, and a long claw comes for another victim. Ray jumps to defend and cover Rachel. The machine decides to target him instead. He sees the grenade belt at the last moment. He picks it up as he is pulled upwards. A soldier assists Ray and tells everyone else to pull him. Before Ray is devoured, his fellow captives manage to drag him back. The group successfully pull Ray back and we see Ray spit out the grenade's pins from his mouth. The tripod starts exploding from inside, as the cage full of people falls to the ground. The tripod finally collapses to the ground. Ray and Rachel make it to Boston. Ray takes a piece of root that was covering a nearby statue. Rachel asks what happened to it, to which Ray replies it's dying. They spot a defeated tripod nearby. They ask a soldier what happened and he says it was behaving erratically and walking in circles. He tells them it went down on its own about an hour ago. Another nearby tripod sounds its horn and everyone flees. Ray notices that a small flock of birds have landed on the tripod. Ray relays this discovery to a captain standing by, who orders his platoon to bring up javelin missiles. Several rockets are fired at the defenseless tripod, which collapses, demolishing a building. The military surround the fallen machine from all sides. A hatch suddenly opens, spilling a bright orange fluid. An alien arm with a pink hue, instead of the steel-gray color Ray had seen on the aliens in the basement, falls out limply. The creature lets out a faint growl before dying from some unknown cause. Ray walks Rachel to his in-laws' house. We see Mary look through her front door and spot Ray. She comes out and reunites with Rachel. The door opens and more family members look at Ray, however, Robbie is not among them. A few moments later we see a figure come out and run towards Ray. The two reunite and embrace each other in a hug. A view of the surrounding areas show the tripod's destruction, but also hope as they lie down defeated. After the aliens had killed billions, in the end, they were defenseless against disease-carrying bacteria to which humans have long been immune. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell if you want to watch more videos like this. Thanks and see you again soon.